Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning from wherever you're joining us from today. My name's Sarah and I'm the Program and Event Manager at the Reactor in Sydney, Australia. Welcome to another Microsoft Reactor Sydney live stream event. Today will be our first episode of our Cloud Advocate Renee Noble series this month, which we are doing, and it is called Code to Cloud. So this will be the first episode. I'm just going to move on through the slides here just so you can read our code of conduct whilst I'm doing the intro. So just first, a bit of background on Renee for whoever is joining us for the first time today in Renee's presentation. So Renee is a self-proclaimed Jane of all trades. She's worked in government doing ML and Python backend, full stack in the ed tech startup sector, and dabbles with embedded tech. In her spare time, she leads the Girls Programming Network for women and girls to realize their potential as techies. She's also started a business to help exciting coding opportunities for kids and teachers. I'm just going to put up her slides now, and then I'm also going to put up Renee on the screen. So today we will be speaking for about an hour, and if you've got any questions, do send them to us throughout, and we'll try and answer as many as possible throughout and towards the end. You'll also see that we'll be sharing a link to our feedback survey with the event code in there. If you could complete that at the end, that would be great. And if there's anything you'd like to reference back from today's session, you can also do that on our YouTube channel straight after today, which we have provided the link for. And in the comment section now, you can see the links for some additional resources that Renee has kindly provided. And also you'll see all the additional episodes for the Code to Cloud series also in that comment section that we will share throughout the presentation. But for now, without further ado, I'd like to hand the floor over to Renee to begin. So thank you, Renee, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm very excited to be here this evening here in Sydney, Australia, to introduce the first episode of Code to Cloud to you all. I'm excited to be building something alongside you throughout these 4 weeks. I really hope you'll get involved. There's going to be opportunities for you to contribute to this code base that we will all share. I'd love to know where in the world you are, so do put in the chat where you're joining us from, and also where on your coding journey you are. It might be your first time getting involved with web development or Python or HTML. Maybe you're a teacher or a person changing, tech stacks that they use, or just a, hobbyist coder. I love all of these, and I'd love to know where you are in your journey. So first up, I'm going to take you along what we're going to be doing on our coding journey over the 4 weeks. If you've seen my things on social media, you see on the right what we're working up to. We'll have something that looks like this by the end of the day, and we'll only go further from there. So what we'll be doing is building the front end and back end of our party invitation website. And then we're going to host our web app and some data in the cloud. So a classic web app setup. And we're not going to do all of this today because that would be too much, but we will cover all of this over the 4 weeks and make a super fun party invitation where you can make a little form, then you can generate these invitations, send them out, and even gather RSVPs. Thank you, everyone who's shouting out. We've got people from Bangalore, we've got people in Coffs Harbour and Sydney. Awesome to see you all here today. So, on our journey, we're going to learn a few different things. We're going to learn some Python. So if you've got a little Python experience, that'll be great. If you don't, follow along. I'll be doing some more series to give you more of that Python flavor and that context that you can fill in any gaps that you didn't quite understand on the way through. But I hope you're going to be able to pick it up and contribute. We'll also be learning the Flask library when using Python. This is what we're going to use to run our web server locally and in the cloud. So then we've also got some HTML, that's for building our website, and CSS for styling our website, a little bit of JavaScript. We're going to be using some tools as well, like GitHub, VS Code, Azure App Service, and Azure Blob. So we'll get to all of those over the 4 weeks. As I said, that's too many things to do in one 1-hour session. So let's start off at the basics. So first, we're going to start off with today's episode. We're going to be covering websites. How do they work? What am I seeing? And how did it get to my computer? So we're going to do a quick discussion of how the internet gives you websites, basically. We're going to get ready to code. We're going to set up VS Code and GitHub, and we're going to host a static web page first, just one that doesn't change, always the same invitation. And then we're going to work on transforming that into being a dynamic site that is served as well. Oop, too far. And then a little taste of next week, discussing query strings and how we're going to get data into our form, from a form into our website. And finally, I want to tell you how you're going to get involved. So I'm going to walk you through how you can fork my repo, then contribute to it, and so I can pull back your creations into my code base and we can share them and even showcase them next week. So first, websites, how do they even work? It's a question that we don't always ask ourselves when we're just using websites and they just appear in front of our eyes. So we have a website like this, and luckily we have browsers, which are great. They do stuff for us. They don't necessarily tell you about it. So we get to see a beautiful website like this one. I highly recommend you go to it if you haven't been there already. But how does this become something we see on our computer? Well, it's made up of code, HTML, CSS, and potentially JavaScript. This site doesn't really have JavaScript, but it could have JavaScript. But what are these bits of code? HTML, hypertext markup language, gives us content and structure. So it gives us the words, from code to cloud. It gives us the paragraphs, and it also gives some structure. So it relates how different items may be placed relative to each other in terms of the structure of them. So that's kind of the base of our website. Then we have CSS. Firstly, it makes it pretty, which is really important. We like websites that look nice. If you ever loaded a web page and it's just loaded really poorly, it's because the CSS hasn't loaded and it looks really bad, and you reload it and it looks fine. So it makes it pretty, and it controls the layout and how the HTML is displayed. So you can have different arrangements, which I'll show you in a second, to the same HTML. And we also have things that change the appearance during action. So when you hover over something or you click on a link, then it might do something different. So that's all done with CSS. Finally, we have JavaScript, and this adds functionality, some pizzazz to some elements, and lets them do more than, just hang out and be the same all the time. You can change things on the fly based on your actions. So it makes things dynamic. As you might, if you've been playing Wordle, don't worry, this isn't today's Wordles if you haven't done yours already. When you enter your letters and they flip over and they show you the colors, that can all be done with JavaScript. So as I was saying, we take our base HTML, which kind of contains the base of our site, the content that we want to communicate, and we give it some flavor with the CSS. So both of these web pages could be made with the same HTML, and just the CSS is what's changing here to give them a whole different, vibe to the page. So we've got our three kinds of files, but where do they come from? Well, firstly, we start off at your computer, and you want to go to a particular URL. Let's say www.companyname.org, classic website. And you put that into your URL bar. And that gets sent off, bounced around the internet, and eventually ends up at a web server that hosts that website. That web server is then programmed to give you back the code that you need to view the website. So it'll give you back some HTML, some CSS, maybe some JavaScript, or some data potentially even. So that makes the round trip all the way back to you, back to your browser, which knows how to put your site together so you can see it. So that's kind of got two components. We saw their computer and your computer. So we've got the front end. That's what's happening in your computer, in your browser. We can put that code together to be something you can view, but also we've got something happening on somebody else's computer. In this instance, we've got something running on a web server, probably hosted on the cloud, as most things are these days. But you can host a web server on any computer that you just want to be on all the time for people to be able to access. And they are the people giving you your website, sending that code. When you send them a request, they send you a response. And they can run other things like databases or anything on their back end. So where shall we start? We'll be starting on the front end, because that way we can just make some files that we can easily have a peek at in our browser just to see how they look first. So first step is we're going to get set up with GitHub. GitHub is an implementation of Git where basically you store your code. If you haven't used version control before, this is a great start. Basically, it's a way to have your code stored on the cloud, but also it saves different iterations of it when you do things called a commit. So today, I've already set up our repo for us just because I wanted to be able to add a README that explains how you can contribute to it, as well as I wanted to put the link on the site so you can grab it whenever you need. So I've already made this one, but I'm going to jump over to it now. Here we go. Here's our repo. So this is our repo, I believe. There we go. That's our repo. It has only a couple files. It's got a README and a git ignore. You can ignore that one for now, but it just tells your computer what not to upload to Git. And all we need to do to get started is copy this link. This is going to be how we're going to get the code that's already in here into our computer, and then we'll have the connection between GitHub and our code that's hosted locally in our computer's files. So this is, oops, sorry everybody. I've got a lot of windows open because we've got a lot of stuff to do today. So we're going to go here and we're going to go clone git repository, repo for short. So I'm going to put in that link up here at the top. And what's going to happen next is it is going to ask me to put it somewhere on my computer. So I'm going to done it again. Let's try that again. I'm not going to double click it this time like a pro. Okay, we're going to put it where I actually want it in this folder that I've called live. So I'm going to select that repository location. And any second now, yes, we're going to open our repository. So now we can see we've got the two files that I said we had online before. So good on us. We've got that first part set up using Visual Studio Code. It's a really popular tool in development. And it's got some neat things that I've been learning about. So next up, we are going to just create some folders so we have some structure for where we're going to store our stuff. So I'm going to start by creating a folder called templates. This is where we're going to put our HTML. And later, we're going to make templates for our HTML, just kind of like a mail merge. If you've done one of those where you can have different names, you have a placeholder, and then it'll put in the name of whoever you want to send that email to, etc. It's like that, but for web pages. So we're going to have that. But to start off, we're going to start by making a static version of it. So it's not going to be templated. We just want to see something in the browser because that'll be fun. Next up, we are going to make something called a static folder. This is where things that are going to be static the whole time live. This is where we're going to put our CSS. And we're also going to put things like images in here because they're obviously not going to change. So I'm going to make a folder called images. So here we go. Cool. So now we have all of that working and we are ready to make our static web page. So jumping into our templates folder, I'm going to make our first web page and I'm going to call it Kids Party. So we're going to start by making that beautiful kids party invitation you might have seen, or if you saw it on social media or on the series page. You probably want to use it for your next birthday party, I can tell. So first up, let's just put some text in here, actually. So we're just going to, I'm going to invite my lovely partner, Jack, to a birthday party for my cat, BB. It was his birthday last week, but, a belated birthday party. I'm sure he won't mind that it's, not on his actual birthday. So I'm going to invite him to BB's birthday. It's going to be on Thursday, the 20th of January. And we can have a time at 6 p.m. Seems like a good time for a cat party, probably. I'm going to say, see you there, Renee. Okay, that seems good. I'm going to save that as a start. And let's firstly go have a look at that. So this is my cat's actual birthday. So if you feel the need to celebrate on that day, I won't judge you, So to have a look at it, we just have an HTML file. And as I said, your browser just knows how to look at these things. So I'm just going to open this file in there. And as you can see, it's a really beautiful web page. And we're pretty much done. I don't know what we need the other 45 minutes for. But I guess we can probably add some better structure to this and some CSS. So as we can see, it's just all on one page, one line. That's probably not what we intended. So let's add a little bit of formatting to it. But as you can see, it did work. Okay. So first up, I'm going to actually add some other stuff that's not super exciting looking. But it's firstly, we're just going to say, hey, this is an HTML file because it's kind of just, you know, the done thing. Your computer will figure it out, but also let's do it because it's what you do. Okay, I'm also adding in the head and the body, which is just basically, so I've added the HTML tag here, and then also, which is just saying, this is the HTML, you should read this. And then I'm adding the head and the body, which the body is where we put the stuff we want to show on our website. And the head is where we put stuff that doesn't get shown, but is useful in rendering the website. So we might put some metadata in here. You could put the title of your web page if I wanted to make it like birthday party app or something, the stuff that appears in the little tab at the top of your browser. You can do stuff like that. We will use it in just a minute. So let's start by making this look a little bit better. So let's say we're going to put a heading 3, which is the third biggest heading. And we're going to put this in a paragraph. So we do P for paragraph. So this is going to help us managing our line breaks, because before we didn't get any line breaks, which didn't look very good. So I'm going to put this in a paragraph. And finally, I'm going to put this in its own paragraph. But also, I want there to actually be a break between these two lines. So I'm going to put a BR, which is short for break, in here. Okay, cool. But I feel like I want a little bit more pizzazz into this. So I'm going to put I want this kind of part here to be bold. Should I make this an exclamation? Okay, and we want this to be bold. We want it to really stand out. So instead of doing bold, which there is a tag for, but it's not the best thing to do in terms of how it relates to the CSS, we say strong. That way we could style strong in any way. It might not be bold, it might be purple or whatever we wanted. And I'm going to do the same here just to make these stand out, because we want to have that information really apparent. Okay. So everything, we have an opening and a closing tag. And that's how HTML gets its structure, is we put in these tags and we nest them inside of each other. As we can see, all these things are in the body, and then they give us the structure. One last tag I'm going to add is I want this in italics, so we're going to use emphasis here. So I say from Renee, so that'll look cute. So, okay. Let's give that a go. See if it looks any better. That's starting to look a bit better, I think. So that's good. Next thing, we would like it to look even better, I think. So we're going to start by adding our CSS file in here. So new file. I'm going to call this kids-style. I've named my party invitation incorrect for the structure that I'm going to set up. So I'm going to actually rename this to invite-kids. Because we're going to want to have different themed invites later. So this is invite-kids, and we get kids-style that goes with it. So cool, we have this new file. Let's start off by actually going back to our HTML. We're going to need to tell this file where to get its style from. So now we get to use the head, and we do a tag called a link, and we want to give it a style sheet. So that's saying, here's where you're going to get your style from. Its location is with the href, like the reference. And then we're going to say this is where it's located. So our HTML is in templates. So we need to go up to the static folder and we need to go then down into that one. So up to the base level of the whole repo, down into static, and that's where it will be. So we start by going ... go up a level / static. As we can see, this is auto-completing for us. And then we can get kid style. And I haven't put a name, a CSS extension on this one. Rename that one too. .css. There we go. And there we go. We got the whole thing now. And we can start giving it some style. So I reckon the first thing we want to do, just to make sure everything's hooked up, is just change the font sizes, change the font, and give it some color before we go get into it, a lot. So, one first thing that I'm just going to chuck in here. It seems a bit magical, and I won't go into full detail of it, but this is called border box or box sizing. And this is just setting up how borders and margins and paddings work in our invite. And because I don't want padding eating into the whole content area, I am setting it to border box, which sets how the borders and the padding relate to each other. So that's just going to apply to all elements. If you want more information, feel free to tweet at me and I will try and explain it. But hopefully I'll get a chance to explain it more in one of my coming series where I'm focusing on basics of HTML and CSS. So we have got that one first. Now, what do we want to style? I think we're just going to start with the body. We just want to say, hey, I would like all of the text in here to have a different font. I'm going to say the font family I want it to be Gill Sans. So that is just a nice, sans serif font. But if I can't get that one, maybe your browser doesn't support it, I'm going to give you a backup option, which is sans serif. So we've got two options. So if we can't get this one, it will move on to the next one. So new font. And then I'm going to make the different headings and paragraphs different sizes. So let's set the font size here for the headings. So like at the top where we said hijack, viewjack, we're going to set it to be 36 pixels because we really want that to stand out because we really want people to come to this cat birthday party. So let's get that out there now. And for the paragraphs, we still want it to be pretty big. So we're going to go font size 22 pixels. Okay. That seems pretty good to start with. Let's also get the color. I've prepared this color earlier just because it's easier to get these RGB things sorted beforehand. So a lovely pink color. Here we go. We can hover. We can also choose a different color if we wanted in here, which is nice. So let's have a peek at that. So we've got our thing here and let's just refresh it. Ooh, interesting. That's because I moved the file and I renamed it. So let's get the right name in there. Invite-kids. Here we go. Beautiful. Okay. It's looking better already, everybody. So very excited about that. Next up, we really want to get that beautiful background in there. So let's work on that next. So we kind of want to look at this whole area and group it up and put a background on it. So to do that, I'm actually going to grab all of this stuff because I want that all to be bundled up. And I'm going to put it into a div. So it's just something we use to divide things. So a div, and it's just like a box, basically. But if you don't style it, then it, you wouldn't even know it was there. Okay, so that's all in the div. I'm also going to give it an ID because you might want to have other divs in our site later, but I want to do some very specific styling to this one, i.e. the background and things we're going to put on it. So I'm going to give it the name invite. Okay, so we've got that now. Jumping back to our other page, to our CSS. So to style our invite div, I'm going to use that ID that I set up. So to do that, I do this hash invite, and that will just style that specific div. Okay, so next up, so the reason we want to use a div here, we could theoretically, potentially, use the whole body and try and just use the body tags to do this. But in most browsers, the body doesn't actually have a finite height, so you can't set that. So we wouldn't be able to actually size our invitation correctly. So that's why we've created this div inside of the body. So let's get started on the size of it first. So let's say we want it to look, not be too big, but we kind of want to fit it on the screen. So I'm going to say we're going to make the height and the width both be 800 pixels because I know the image I'm using is square. Here we go. And then I'm going to grab a picture because we're going to want to have the really, exciting picture. So we're going to grab that and drag it into our images folder. So just on my other screen, I'm dragging this into our images folder. Okay, so our beautiful background image is what we're going to use here. Okay, so back to our CSS. Now we just need to get that background image in. So let's put that in here, background image. And we are going to say the URL of that image is in. So we just need to go relative to where we are. We're here. We need to go inside image and get kids party 1. So we're in kids party 1. Excellent. Okay, let's just start with that. That's probably going to be beautiful. Okay, so that's interesting. It's not quite what we want yet, so I think we'll add a couple more things. But it's definitely a start. So let's go on to how we want to size this background image. So we've got a background, and then there's size. So there's different ways we could say to control this. We could say we want it to repeat and tile. We want it to fit in a lot of times. If we had a small image, we just want it repeating over and over again and filling up the screen. Very classic 90s vibe to me. But for this one, we just want it to fill the whole thing and for the box to contain it. So we're going to set this to contain. Just a lot of random CSS things that, you eventually have to put together, mix and match and figure out what works. Just doing a little search on the internet is usually the best way to go. So let's have a quick peek for that. Okay, looking a lot better, but obviously we can't read anything because it's over these cute lollies up the top. So let's add some padding. So padding is going to space it out from the edge because, I don't want this sitting right on the edge anyway, even if the border wasn't there. So we're going to add some padding to really push it into the middle. So I've had to play around, and I think about 170 pixels is pretty good. So we can have a look at that. Could, go a little more if we wanted. Just refresh that. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good there. So we can say now that we have our static web page. So great work, all of us. Anyone who's following along, if you're following along at home at the same time, look, that's pretty speedy. But yeah, send us through, any comments, any questions that you've had so far. But while I wait for any questions to come through, I'm going to move on to committing this code because we've made something that works. It's really good when you're at a stage where something works to commit your code and push it up in case anything happens or you decide to change something and it never quite goes back to how you want it again. So I've installed the GitHub extension for VS Code, and honestly, normally I've just been using the command line to push changes, but this is actually to be useful. So I'm going to press plus on these to say, these are the items that I want you to commit. I'm going to make a little comment. So made static web page. And then I can tick the box here and say, this is my little package that is committed, a little snapshot in time. And then we can sync the changes. So that's going to push them up. And it's going to give us any other changes, which there shouldn't be. Because this is a new repo. And we go back to our files here. Okay, great. So now we've got our static web page working. Let's go back to our slides. Okay. So we made our HTML code. We've had a look locally. We can see we can just open our HTML file and it opens our browser. We've added some CSS and we've committed our code. So now it's time to make a served site and make it more dynamic. So we're going to start by setting up a server.py file with Flask, which is going to be our library that is acting as our server. Then we're going to create a route. So that's like the URL that you can use to access it locally when you're hosting this web server on your computer. And then we're going to use templating, and we're going to make our party invitation be able to do different stuff. So onto the back end we go. Cool. So we're going to go to our top level file, and we're going to make a new file, not inside there. New file here. Great. I'm going to call it server.py. And this is where we're going to get started with Flask. But before we do that, I do want to set us up a Python virtual environment. If you're just getting started with Python, maybe you want to skip this step. But if you're doing several different projects that involve Python, it's a good habit to use a Python virtual environment. And what that is basically makes a little house for your project's different configurations to live in. For instance, I think today I'm using Python 3.8 and I'm using Flask. So, but for instance, you might have another program that only works in a different version of Python or with different libraries, and you don't want all of those things cluttering each other up, or maybe you need a specific version of Flask to run in something else. So this is making a little bubble that's going to keep our configuration for this project all together. So I'm just going to start by hitting this run button. So that's how you would normally run your file, but actually I just want this terminal to pop up. And what I'm going to do is create our Python virtual environment. I'm going to say Python 3, because I also have Python 2 installed. So Python 3 M is from this module, venv, which is short for virtual environment. And I'm going to, what am I going to call it? I'm going to call it web app. That's what I'm calling this virtual environment. Okay, so we wait a second. And then we're going to say, yes, we want to use this virtual environment for this project that we have in VS Code. And we've seen this folder here has been created. You don't need to look in here. Looking in here can be scary. There's too many things in there. All we need to do now is to kick our virtual environment into action. So we're going to start by going source, and then we're going to write the name of our virtual environment, which is web app. Then we're going to say bin, and we're going to write activate. So this is saying run the code in the activate file at this location. And as you can see now, because I've got my ZSH prompt configured like this, you can actually see that the virtual environment that's set up, that is running, that we're inside, is web app, which we just created. So that's great. Now we have that ready to go. I'm going to make one more file that is going to be called, so basically we want to install Flask, and we're going to have that as part of our project. But instead of me installing it and then maybe forgetting later, and then you copying the repo and being like, why doesn't mine work? And it says Flask's not installed. I'm going to create a file called Requirements.txt. And this is where we're going to list anything that you need installed in Python to make it work. Okay. Cool. So we're going to go in here, and we're just going to write Flask. I'm going to make sure that that's a lowercase. Yes, it is. Good. So we write Flask, we save that, and now we are ready to install. So you might have many things listed in here if you had a big project, but we can say pip install -r. So that's saying we're going to give you a requirements file, requirements.txt. And then it's going to go through all of that and say, yep, I've installed all these things for you into your virtual environment, and now you can use them. So now our environment is set up, and we can get ready to code. So we've got Flask, which is what we need to get started. So the first thing we need to do is import Flask. So we say from Flask, import Flask, which seems a bit silly. If you haven't used Python objects before, I was like, that's just the same thing, but with a capital letter. But that's the convention, is to name the object that is the Flask module that we're going to use with an uppercase letter. So if you see something with uppercase, that's what it means. It's a class and an object. Okay, so we've got Flask. We've also got request. As I said, the web works based on sending and requests and giving responses. So we need to be able to accept a request so we can give a response. And we need to render templates later, which is that mail merge process that I said, where you're putting the data that you want into your invitation when someone asks for the site. So next up, we also need to create our Flask app. So I'm just going to chuck this in here. So I'm creating a variable that uses this Flask class to make an app. So that's just kind of, just think about it. There's an app there that's kind of attached to that variable, which we can work with now. And the next thing we need to do is actually make a route for that app. So that's something that we can then go to and as a URL. So I'm going to start with invite app. And then we want to create a route. So we're creating a route for the invite app. And this is where we want to view our invitation. So I'm going to just call it view. Seems good. And so this is going to sit above this view invite function. So basically, we call this a decorator in Python. Anytime and Flask, has its magical properties, it's code that goes, hey, if you have something that matches this pattern that gets sent to Flask, we're going to go here, and then we're going to find this function, and then we're going to run whatever is inside of this function. And to start off with, let's just start by giving back the template we already have. So that way we can just see that our website works even before we put any new data inside of it. So let's just start with, let's say the name of the file. Let's make a new variable just so we have that stored here. So we're going to want to change that up later. So it's not always the kids' party invitation. We might want to make it cat themed or banana themed, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so our invite is currently called invite-kids-html. Okay, and all we're going to do now is, as I said, we need to render the template. So using that function that we've imported up here, and we're just going to pass it the template variable, which we've just put in here. Okay, one more thing we need to do is actually make the server run. So I'm going to copy in a big chunk of stuff, and I'm going to explain it because it's just annoying to type out. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, firstly, this gross part, if name equals main. It looks really bad, and I often have to look up, does everything have the underscores, etc.? Just Google that whenever you need it. So what this means is if we run this file, so I click the run button here, anything that's inside if name equals main is going to run. And if we're not in this file, say we imported it, just like we've imported other things, it wouldn't run. So this is just when you run this yourself, then do this stuff. Okay, and then inside here, we're saying invite app, this is how we want you to run, and we're giving you a few different parameters. Firstly, let's start here. This is the host and the port. So that's just the address that it's going to run on inside of your computer. So we can actually go to 0000/8080, and then it will show us our website if you put that in your URL bar. These extra bits here are just for our debugging and our coding purposes. So debugging equals true is it gives us more information if something goes wrong, so we can figure out where the bug is. And use reloader, every time we save this file, then it's going to reload our web app. So we have a fresh server and it's showing the latest updates. Otherwise, you might be being like, why aren't my changes showing up in the website when I'm looking at it? And it's because you haven't reloaded your browser, your server. So this does it for us, which is a big help. So now I think we're ready to run it. So we can see our console here is now acting as a web server. So if I now go, let's hit this link up. So this address here is equivalent of the 0000. And let's go into a new window. Okay, so fun trick. So I said here, we've set this to be at /view. If we put it to here, then it would be this naked URL here. It wouldn't have anything after it. But as we know, web addresses can have things after them with a slash. So we do this, we'll see that I've definitely done something wrong. But we do know that our web server is working, which is fun. It's because I didn't end this with return. So it said, we didn't return anything at the end of this, which you need to do if you want Flask to work. We should have returned the rendered template. So let's give it another go. Here we go. We have our beautiful cat birthday invitation on children's theme. So that's all working. We've got our web server working, which is awesome. So now that we have that working, let us go and template our file. So we don't always want to invite Jack like you do. That's my partner. He's a quality guy. Invite him to your cat's birthday party. He'd have a great time. But we want to be able to invite more people to our party as well. So let's get rid of this. And we're going to write name here. So that's right. It's going to. So dear to. That's what I'm going to use as the placeholder there. We're very excited to invite you to not always BB's birthday party. It might be, our other Artemis's birthday party. So we're going to say event name. Can't always, we want to have lots of parties. So, on different dates. So we're going to put this one is going to be date. And this one is going to be time. And then you might want to invite somebody. I don't need to send all the invitations. So let's say that's going to be the sender. Okay, so now we have a template that we can see. And you can imagine how that would turn out if you put different data into it. So let's jump back to our server. And let's put some data into it. So we'll see how far we get today. I don't know if we'll get to getting all of the data out of a URL today, but we'll do a little bit. But to start off with, I'm just going to do all of do it hard-coded, as we would say. So I'm going to say who we're going to invite. We're going to invite our lovely host, Sarah, to the event that is my other cat's birthday party. Artemis's birthday party. It's very exciting. I'm sure she's super excited to come along. And we're then going to have it at the date, not data, the date. It's going to be on February 10th. You can put anything in here. So you could say Wednesday, 10th of February or whatever you would like. But however you want it to show up. And then we can put in the time. I'm sure Sarah would love to come at 4 a.m. to our party. And then from sender. And I'm just going to say Jack did setting the party up at the terrible time of 4 a.m. Okay, so we've got all of that. And our template is now expecting these different placeholders to turn up. So we can say, so they're going to be expecting a thing that says 2. And we can say is equal to the 2 that we have here. We can also say event is equal to the event parameter that we have in here as well, etc. Oh, good. Sarah, I can see in the chat, is very excited to be coming to the party. The date is at the date that we've set here. So yes, this looks really silly if you're not familiar with this, but this is just saying the template is expecting to see things called to variables called these. And we need to say, could you set your date to our date and send that on through? So we've put all of those in. And let's see how it goes. Dear Sarah, we're very excited to invite you to, I've done something wrong. It doesn't say the birthday party, but it does say that it's on February 10th at 4 a.m. See you there, Jack. Okay, so let's see what's gone wrong here. So I've called this, I've called this something else in the template. So we call this event name. Back to the server. So we actually need to say this is event name. And we can leave this as event. As I said, we're just saying, set your event name to my event. We could have called this variable literally anything. But the thing you're expecting to be called event name is under our event. So let's have another look. Artemis's birthday party. Okay, excellent. The party is a go ahead. Terrific. So we've got that all set up now, which is great. And we have a decent chunk of time. So let's have a look at query strings next up. So let's start off firstly by committing our file. Got a lot of changes going on here. I think I do want to commit our Python virtual environment, because then you can all have it, and when you run it yourselves, then it will all work. So just clicking on all of these, adding them all to our collection in our repo, which you can all use, and it's linked on the website. As you can see, we've got specific versions of Python set up in here. Okay, so this is the virtual environment, and templated invite. Okay, send that off, and we're going to push that up to the cloud. Okay, now that's on the website. You could go and grab it right now if you're that eager. But let's have a look at query strings. So back to our slides. So this is about how data gets into our page and getting data out of query strings, and then using that to put it into our website. Back we go. So right now, if we wanted to change it, we have to put somebody else's name in here and save, so the server restarts, and then it would say someone else is coming to the party. But we'd rather be able to do that from the web browser, because you can't just be doing that to send a different invite. And then, if Sarah went on now that I've put Tom in, it would now invite Tom, and she'd be like, I feel left out. So we wouldn't want that. So what we want to do is use query strings. And I've got one somewhere that I prepared earlier because they look pretty funny. Let me just grab that. It's escaped. A lot of different files open in this land, as you can see from my many screens that I'm flicking back and forth between. It's got a lot of code happening. Okay, so let's start with just one query string. So firstly, I'm going to want to really change the theme. Possibly this kids party invitation isn't the best one for a cat birthday party. So maybe we'll make a cat themed one in a second. So what we're going to do, I'm just putting this one here so you can just see it, and I'm just putting it in a comment. So we can see that we've got our host and our port as per these ones. Well, not 000, but it's equivalent. And we've got view, which is this route. And then we've got !style cat. Which I would like to create a cat style, but right now we would say kids. So for our query strings, I'm just going to, let's just do just start with one. We'll do the same for the rest of this information next week, but I'm going to be expecting from the string that there is a style argument passed in with it. So let's say, so to get something out of a string, so when someone goes to the website, they'll need to say style something. So when you would send your party invitation link, that would be included, and they click on it and they get their kids or cats or chicken themed. I think someone, Evie said in the chat. So you would get that, which is good. So I'm going to grab some code over here and put it down here. So we want our template not to always be the kids template. So what we want to do when we get our request is, so whenever we go to this route, something that is inherently passed to it, which you can't see in here, is the request. So we have access to the request that was sent from the URL. So we get the request, and then we can say, hey, there's some arguments in your URL, which is going to be this part. I'd like to get the one called style. So we're going to grab that. I'm going to put in the style variable. Move this up to here so we know what we're talking about. And then instead of just saying invite kids all the time, I'm just going to add some strings together. So we're going to say style plus that. Okay, And we'll put our hyphen back in. Okay, so when we make a request, so we're going to go to this in a second, and then you need to have pluses on both sides, and then we're going to be all good to go, I hope. So let's give it a go. So we're going to do pop that in, fingers crossed, and now we have the same party invitation. If I do something else, it's going to be like not know what to do. So let's see dog, and now it's broken. Terrific. So we know it's working because it's broken when it's not supposed to work. And in a second, we will get to making our cat-themed party invitation. Cool. So we've done that. We now know how query strings work. And next week, we're going to make a form that will allow us to put in all of this information, and it will build the query string for us. I'll give you a taste of what that looks like, because this is kind of why we don't want to do it today. So we'd have to have this if we wanted to invite someone to a birthday party, and it's just very long. So instead, let's leave that till when we actually have a form. So we didn't have to write that out by hand, because it's very easy to make a mistake. So let's commit these changes, because we're about to become, I'm going to act out what you might want to do if you are going to contribute to this project, which I highly encourage you to, because otherwise I don't know what other themes we might make. But it's better if you make some, I think, and then I can showcase them next week on the episode. So we're adding our query string for different styles to our repo. And we're going to sync that, because we're going to want that all to be on the web before we go to the next task. Okay. Cool. So this, to show that I am, in fact, a different person partaking in this, I'm going to wear this hat just so you know that it's not the classic Renee who made this. So I'm going to go to another screen. I'm going to go to GitHub, but I'm not going to go as me. I'm going to go as somebody who is visiting my page. And this is my page here. You can go in and jump on, and you can go and see the Code to Cloud repo here. So we can even see all the commits that we've had. So let's go and make sure everything's up here that we want. Yep, we've just committed this, which is great. And let's jump back. Okay, so as we know what to do already, to get a repo that's already alive, we can just copy this link. Actually, not quite yet. We need to first, fork this repository. We already have 5 forks. That's exciting. So we're going to fork this repo. And then this is my other Renee, micro Renee. Not very big, so that's why I'm micro, or I work at Microsoft, one of these. So now I have my own version of it. And thus, the person who wears this hat. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go to another window that has, that is another VS Code window. I'm also going to change the theme just so we know which part of this is me doing stuff. Give us the colors. Maybe I'm not. I thought I'd set this up ready to go. Give us the theme. Okay. One more try. Here we go. Dark. Now, the person who wears this beautiful hat, my partner's lovely hat, crocheted by the amazing Nikki Ringland, another great woman in tech. I can wear this hat and I can work with my light theme. That's what I'm like, apparently, when I wear the hat. Okay, so we're going to clone the GitHub repo that we've just made. I'm going to make another folder inside of here just so it doesn't get mixed up. This is Hat Renee. She's making this repo, and this is where this is going to live. Okay. Open. We're going to open our new repo. Okay, cool. So now we can jump into, we've got all the code here. So we've got another version of the code. This is my fork of the repo though, so you don't have to worry about, messing everything else, up tonight, etc. So if you were like going to do something crazy and then push it, it's just going to be your copy, so it doesn't matter, which is awesome. Okay, cool. So next up, we want to, I think we've already got the virtual environment probably running still in the background. Let's double check. So we want to have our virtual environment up and going. So let's grab the server file. Let's just hit run. So we can actually just, no, we don't have our virtual environment up. So we can just go and source this here as well. Oh, we do theoretically. But I might not know where it is the problem. So let's deactivate. Good thing to know. Deactivate. I think we're in the wrong repo. So let's have a look where we are. Right, we're in the right place, and then we're going to source. And then we go, what's our virtual environment called? Web app. Interesting. Source. Sorry, there we go. We need to say the whole thing. Source our web app. /bin/activate. Okay, theoretically this works now. Okay, well that's going to be a problem. But that's what we would do to create our new, to get that up and running. It might be because I've got things running all over the place now, which is interesting. We also need to, of course, install requirements .txt because that exists in the environment. Pip install -r txt. Okay, maybe it will like us now. Okay, well that's a little problem. But what we're going to do is just going to pretend like that's working, and then I'm going to just make a new one of these. So I'm going to start by copying this. Copy, maybe no, not copy, probably duplicate. Do you have a function for that? No, we're just going to new file. I'm going to call this cat, invite-cat .html. And I'm just going to go grab all of this. And I'm going to chuck it in here. And I might say, come join us for a perfect day at, blah, blah event. And then I'm going to also make a new style sheet for this. So I'm going to say cat.style. And then I'm going to jump into static. I'm going to make a copy of this. So new file here, which is going to be called cat.style.css. I'm going to grab all of this. I'm also going to jump in here and add a new picture of this beautiful cat party invitation theme. So when I go here, I'm going to actually make it in our CSS. I don't want kids party anymore. I want cat party. .jpeg. I might also change all of this other styling. I might not want it to be pink anymore. Let's just change it to be, I want it to be orange. And we want, the padding to be a bit different as well. So we could change literally anything we want here. And then we could run it. But right now, and we're out of time nearly, so I'm not going to have it, not going to show it off right now. Well, I'm going to show you how we would deploy it. Oh, we've got some questions. After it is deployed on Azure Cloud, it is available on web. Is my understanding correct? So next time we're going to deploy this on Azure Cloud. So it's going to be actually on the internet. But right now we're just running it locally. If someone was on your intranet and you had your permission set up right, someone else could access this running server from your computer, which is also pretty cool if you want to give that a try. Yeah, but just to finish up for today, we've got our new cat invitation. We haven't actually been able to view it, sadly. So hopefully, because you don't have like 7 versions of this running on your computer, you won't have an issue. And if you do send me a tweet or DM me and I'll help you out. But I'm going to show you how you can commit it, pretending that we know that it works. We're just going to, normally you would make sure something works. And we're just saying cat invite. I'm going to commit all of that. I'm going to push all of those changes. And I'm going to jump back to GitHub. Is this my version? That's not Hat Renee. There we go. Here's Hat Renee's repo. And let's see how we're going. Have we got any changes? Let's go and have a look if our pictures are in here. Oh, we haven't got our changes yet. So let's go find our changes. Make sure they're all synced up. It's a little bit of a mess when you have everything. They're still going. Come on, changes. You can do it. Interesting. Okay, cool. So something went wrong with the fork, possibly because we grabbed the URL before, but we now have a fork thanks to VS Code. So we will go and check out whatever projects I have available. We're going to go here. Hopefully, now we have our image. No. Okay. That's very sad. Well, something's clearly, I think it's still trying to push the stuff. So I will show you how you would go about making a pull request. So instead, I'm just going to make a little edit to here so we have something to commit. We're just going to add this just so there's something. And we're going to save those changes just so we have something to make our pull request on. And we're going to go, where is our pull request on? New pull requests, new pull request here. And then we just want to look at base repository. That's, not Hat Renee's repository. We want to bring in my new repository, and we're going to create a pull request with this single line of code change here. Hopefully yours actually has a new themed invitation, but, we're not so lucky here today with that. Well, it's still doing something. But yes, hopefully I will make sure there is another themed invitation up there so you can all have a look at how that went. Once we jump offline, but then that's how you make your pull request, and then I will come along and see that there will be a pull request for me, and I'll get to have a look at your code and be like, that's a really cool invitation. I'm going to accept the pull request, and then it's going to be part of our communal code base. So this is how you go about adding your own invite, bring your own hat to this world. And yeah, next week on Code to Cloud, we're going to have an invitation showcase. So see what you've made. We're going to create an HTML form, and we're going to get the data out of that to populate our invitation. And we're going to host our site, as we had a question about it from Hirok in the comments, about putting it on the internet with Azure App Service. So now we have our website. We'll make a little bit more website next time and put it onto the net. So here's some links for you. Jump onto the GitHub repo. It's here, or you can look me up, specifically Renee Noble, and jump to the series page. It also has a link to the repo. It has places you can jump to for the next week's episode and descriptions of that, and all the resources, a bunch of documentation, and how to help you get set up with VS Code and get set up with Python virtual environments and all kinds of things, and Git. If you want to get practice on GitHub, there's a great thing on there to give that a go. So that's all I've got for you for Cloud to Code today. Please fill out the survey, and I'm sure Sarah will pop in again in a second. But thank you all for joining me. If you have any questions, get them out now, because otherwise we'll be signing off.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee. We'll just give everyone a second if they have any last-minute questions there. Thank you for sharing those additional series link page and the GitHub repo that is in both Renee's presentation and in the comment section there. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and engaging and answering, asking some questions and letting us all know where you were coming from today. Thank you again to Renee for presenting. We look forward to next week's episode. Have a good rest of your afternoon, evening, and morning, and we'll see you next time.